I'm Jeanne Birdsall, and I write books for children. To describe how I got there, I could start here when I was first learning to read, or with my first poems, bad misspellings and all. Or I could start by telling you the story of how I was let loose in the children's room of our local library and fell in love with the great books by E. Nesbitt, Edward Eager, Noel Streatfeild, and C.S. Lewis, and dared to dream that I too might write books for children someday. But I'm going to start here in Pennsylvania in 1993. Though I was still a voracious reader, I'd never had the courage to start writing. Instead, I was a photographer, lonely, living there with a dark room, 4 cats, and not much else. When, by a series of wonderful coincidences, an old friend from junior high and high school came back into my life. His name was Bill. He was living in Michigan, and though he had been married, he wasn't anymore. And when I say that he was a friend, I mean friend, not boyfriend. When Bill was in high school, he was very shy around girls. He was editor of the school newspaper, commencement speaker, and I was, a cheerleader. But now that Bill was grown up, he'd gotten over some of his shyness, and he'd learned how to kiss, which was very nice. And I decided it would be a good idea to fall in love with him. While I was falling in love with him, he was looking at my photographs, and he said, these are nice. I like them. But I always remember you as being a writer. I think you should start writing. And I said, oh, that's really scary. And he said, no, I really think you should. I'll encourage you. And I said, will you marry me? And so we got married and moved to Massachusetts. And I started to learn how to write. For several years, I wrote first sentences, then whole paragraphs, and finally whole pages, all of them on grown-up themes. Only then did I feel like I had enough under my belt to go back to my old dream of writing for children. Casting around for a place to begin, I remembered a book that I'd loved so much as a child, Little Women. It had been written in the 19th century by Louisa May Alcott about 4 sisters in Massachusetts. I decided that I too would write a book about 4 sisters in Massachusetts. But my sisters would be modern, and they would make me laugh. Louisa May Alcott had no sense of humor. And will she let one of her sisters die off, mine would live at least through the end of the series. Thus was born my Penderwick family, the family that would inhabit my first book. Rosalind 12, Sky 11, Jane 10, and Batty the baby, age 4. They were being brought up by their father, and I was going to send them to the Berkshires for a summer vacation where they would get into trouble, make me laugh, meet a boy named Jeffrey, and get him into trouble too. But before I could get too deep into the story, I had to face the challenge that all writers for children have to face, which is how to remember how it really feels like to be a child. I hadn't been a child for a very long time, so long it seemed like a faraway land on the other side of that huge, vast mountain range known as the teen years, where many of us cast aside childish things and reinvent ourselves as newly minted almost adults. For me to write authentically for my girls, to understand what would make them laugh, cry, run away, climb out of windows, face down bulls and nasty adults, I'd somehow have to get past the teen years and to the memories of childhood. How to do it? Some people think of memory like a sponge, soaking up all of our experiences. Some people think of it like a computer with bits and bytes and hard drives. I like to think of memory as a set of nesting dolls. Let me give you an example. It involves a long ago love story, and it's okay, my husband knows all about it. When I was in 6th grade, I was madly in love with a boy named Jeff. I was 11, he was 11, and he liked me too. It was my first grand passion. I thought it would last forever. This is the inner nesting doll, the core memory, being in love with Jeff. All went well until one cold, wet night in January at Mrs. Hill's dancing class. Mrs. Hill's was a place where we sixth graders went to dress up. The girls had to wear white gloves, believe it or not, drink punch, and learn the box step. It was the first Mrs. Hill's since Jeff and I had been a couple, and I was very excited. We were going to dance all night. But we didn't dance even once. Jeff didn't ask me, and back in those days, girls weren't allowed to ask boys. We had to sit there pathetically waiting. By the end of the evening, I'd escaped Mrs. Hill's eagle eye to go outside into the wet rain and sob my heart out. Jeff had broken my heart. And now, to remember what it was like to be in love with Jeff, I had to get past the memory of being heartbroken. Later that night, as I sprawled on my bed weeping, my sister came in and told me that I was too young to be heartbroken. Well, now to get to the memory of being in love, I'd not only have to cast aside the memory of being heartbroken, I'd have to cast aside the memory of my sister telling me I wasn't really feeling any of those feelings. And so matters stood for a very long time, one memory tucked behind two others. Jeff and I never talked about what had happened. We were never boyfriend and girlfriend again. We got out of 6th grade, went through 7th grade through 12th grade, barely speaking except to say hi in the halls. And we graduated, and time went on, and we grew up until our 40th high school reunion. By that time, I was married to my wonderful Bill, and I'd already published a book called The Penderwicks with Jeff's name in it, because, yes, I had named the boy Jeffrey after him, all of which gave me courage to go up to him and said, Jeff, I know it's been 48 years, but could you please tell me why you broke my heart in 6th grade? And he looked at me, surprised, and said, but Jeannie, you broke my heart. What? What had happened? We went back and forth. We couldn't solve it. It was just the biggest mystery. But nowadays there are 5 dolls. This biggest one represents me. You can see the gray hair. I'm calm, serene, and now friends with Jeff in the present. This came about when I went back and read my 6th grade diaries and found the clues to the whole mess. Apparently Jeff's brother Doug, no, his cousin, even worse, his cousin Doug deliberately broke us up so that, but that's another whole story. So now, back to writing in memory. My job to authentically write for children is to strip away these outer dolls, these outer memories, so that not only can I feel what it's like to be a child, I can feel what it's like to be a child who has never been an adult. This isn't easy. It takes time and patience to stay stuck there in childhood with those intense memories, pushing away grown-up things like mortgages and leaky roofs and groceries and taxes and all that awful stuff. So I work very hard at it, and it also takes for me having a safe place to live where I can explore the memories and feelings of childhood without fear or embarrassment. This is my home, where I write. We have a dog named Cagney, and he has a best friend named Scuppers, who visits every day. And there are other animals, cats, and all sorts of creatures who have visited it over the year. Welcome, not welcome, and not at all welcome. We have lots of places for cozy naps, hundreds and hundreds of books, and flowers, lots of them, because there's nothing like the scent of lilacs in the spring and roses in the summer, and dirt any time to bring back memories of childhood for me. And we have stone animals and flowers too, all sculpted by Bill in our backyard. But the best thing about our house, no mean people are allowed. So here in this safe place, I remember and imagine and listen and write and remember and imagine some more. Bits and pieces of my own childhood are scooped up into my books. Like my next door neighbor, whose Aunt Dora was used as one of the inspirations for the Penderwick girls' Aunt Clara. And my dog Laddie, whose habit of eating anything, even rocks, out of the driveway was given to Helen Penderwick, Batty's boon companion. And the beach, I gave the Penderwicks these memories when they went to the coast of Maine. And here's my best friend who really did have a roof outside of her bedroom window. We spent most of one summer out there watching the world go by, just like Skye Penderwick does whenever she needs to be alone. Bits and pieces of the lives of the children around me get into the books too, like my nephew, who helps me with the soccer scenes, and his older sister, who really did let a rabbit escape one time, just like Batty does, and another nephew, quite grown up now, who has served with the 101st Airborne in Afghanistan. He's lent a lot of his story to Nick Geiger, who lives across the street. And this is one of my granddaughters. She's on my special ops research team into the speaking and eating habits of 2-year-olds. By now I've published 2 picture books. Flora's Very Windy Day. You'll be surprised to hear that it's about a memory of me being sent outside on a very windy day and thinking that I was going to be blown away and never heard of again, illustrated by the brilliant Matt Phelan. And Lucky and Squash. I hope you recognize my dog Cagney and his best friend Scuppers on the cover, because it really is them. I wrote the story, and the book is illustrated by Jane Dyer, who just happens to own Scuppers and is one of my very good friends. She also painted those nesting dolls for me. Here you can see that she used photographs to do the paintings of the dogs inside, here and here, and here they are looking very ridiculous on the back cover. There are now 3 Penderwick books. I'm working on the 4th. There will be 5 altogether. The girls' lives have become part of my own, their memories mine. But the very best part about all of this is that though these books are very specific to me, they're being read by children all over the world, places like Germany, Indonesia and Israel, Italy, Korea. I got letters from some children in Korea the other week. Thank goodness they were in English. The Netherlands, Russia, Vietnam, France and Spain, and a dozen or so other countries. All these books, because years and years ago, a boy named Bill noticed that I liked to write and decided to remember. What a gift he gave me. Memory is always a gift to have and to share. I understand this more and more as I grow older and get closer to the time when my memories may start to slip away from me. But until then, I will continue to watch, listen, and remember whenever I can. And I will tell everyone I know, grown-ups and children, to watch and listen and remember always to remember. Thank you.